Coffee's ready. Just give everybody a few seconds to show up. Oh, and I probably won't go back to sleep while we're waiting. Oh, man. I'll tell you all about my weekend, all the things we got going on, and we'll go from there. 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Today is Monday. It is June 21st, 2021. My name is Jeremy. This is my first cup of coffee. That's very warm. Well, I don't know about you. I had a pretty solid weekend. I did. I had some good work on Friday. Lots of good stuff. Let's recap. All right, so Friday started a couple days of watching my neighbor's cats, or rather not watching, but just checking in on them, feeding them, and did that. Got some work done at the co-working space. Had a drink with some friends. Attended for a little while. Valerie Brasso, who's been on the show, she did what do I want to call it? A poetry reading. Because she wrote a poetry book, which just arrived yesterday. It's in a pile somewhere. I gotta read it. And so she was reading some poems. She had friends reading some poems, so I popped in on that. That was super cool. Great way to spend Friday night. The rest of the time, I just hung out, watched some TV, went to bed early because I was tired. Saturday, took care of those cats again, and did a bunch more stuff outside in the gardens. Put more herbs in. And really started to think about another event, an event that we may do next year. We might be at the point where we can pull this off. I'll come back and tell you about that in a minute. Sunday, yesterday, was Father's Day, which was a little challenging for me at times. And I didn't realize it until we'd gotten to the trail. I went with some friends. So the last few years, I've hiked this particular mountain on my birthday. Celebrate my birthday, go for this hike. It was supposed to thunderstorm on my birthday this year. It didn't, but I still ended up not going. Just figured being on top of a mountain during a thunderstorm wasn't a good idea. Tried to reschedule for last week, didn't work. So I rescheduled for this weekend. Yesterday was Father's Day. It was the first Father's Day since my father passed away. Now, granted, we didn't have a close relationship, but not 2020, but 2018 and 2019, he somehow managed to call me on my birthday when I was in the exact same spot on this mountain. Like within 50 feet. Unplanned. So yesterday, when I hiked it, I took a moment and just kind of, I told my friends, I said, if I seem distant at points or emotional, here's what's going on. They were really supportive. But I paused for a moment in that spot, just kind of, I'm always going to think of him when I hike that mountain now, which is so interesting because he's never been there. He never hiked that mountain. And I'm still going to remember him on that spot. But it was a great hike. Beautiful weather. This was these folks. These are new friends that I made, and they moved from California, and they never hiked anything in Vermont. And I forgot going up that they weren't used to elevation. So we paused a lot. We made great time coming up. Now, I also hiked barefoot, which I did last year. And I've done a bunch of barefoot hiking, but this was the first time I was able to do this whole mountain barefoot. It's close to 7 miles. And by the time we got down, like the last couple miles, I was moving so slow. My feet were so fried. But fortunately, my friends didn't mind. I think we were doing 30-minute miles going up, and I think we were doing close to 60-minute miles down. It took a long time. It was the longest it's ever taken me to hike that mountain. But I even met another person hiking barefoot, a young girl. Yeah, not that young. That makes me sound like an old man or something. But yeah, I put some pictures on my Instagram story. It was fun. And then hung out with the family and had some food and celebrated a bunch of birthdays and Father's Day. First time we got together in a while. Oh, so it was a good weekend. It was a really good weekend. Oh, and I relocated a couple chipmunks because man, those guys are getting rough. Not the woodchucks though; they will not come to the trap. I don't know how we're gonna handle that. And so it's today. Today's Monday. We have a show. Is the show out yet? Let's check. I've got the second How to Fight to go through and do my timestamps on because that happened. That happened last week. Last week was so busy. Coming back from being away for a week, not really away, but just reduced capacity, coupled with it being a recording week, coupled with it just being an abnormal week in terms of people wanting my attention, I was crazy busy and I'm still catching up. I don't want any of this. None of these recommendations are relevant. YouTube, what's your deal? Last week I posted the Patreon exclusive video for you, for those of you there that are doing that level. Nope, not here yet. Okay, must be uploading. It's okay. That's okay. I used to get really upset. I used to get frustrated when things didn't happen at exactly the right time. I started worrying about more important things. If our show releases even a day late, it's not going to change our numbers. People are still going to watch or listen. It's okay. We aim for it. Sometimes we miss. Well, I am going to make a really strong effort to finish the first draft of the flexibility program this week. Really want to get that done. And I got a shipping confirmation, I think it was Friday, that the copies of the magazine are in the mail. Those I'm going to have to handle. Print out some address labels and mail those out. Those will probably be here, let's see. If I'm remembering the dates, correctly, 23rd, so Wednesday. So I'll get those out, hopefully by the end of the week. I'm excited. I'm excited for people to get that. I'm excited to send that out, see what the feedback. Ugh, hiccups. Let's see what the feedback is. And so what's today? Today, if I remember correctly, I'm actually going to check my calendar because I'm excited if my memory is correct. I've got a couple meetings, but for the most part, I can catch up. I got piles. I got servers to wipe. I got people to call, emails to write. There is so much going on. I see 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm done with calls at noon. And a bunch of stuff. Oh, I'm talking to Frank later, hopefully. Tomorrow I'm not recording. Got a couple calls. Tomorrow, it's going to be a much easier week. Much easier week. Oh. I sat here when I came back from the hike. Good morning, Nathan. When I came back from the hike, hike and hanging out with family, I grabbed a basin and just put a bunch of Epsom salts in and soaked my feet, and I could barely move my ankles. Like I was so sore, I was so banged up. But they feel better now. I don't know that I would go for another hike barefoot today, but I can walk around at least. Let's see what you guys gave me to talk about. I think I just saw stuff from Frank. The rest of you guys have been sleeping on the job. Just saying. Letting Frank carry the load. It's a good thing we have him. All right, so today, Monday, June 21st, 2021, is International Yoga Day. Here's a fun fact about yoga, and it's basically the same fact that martial artists are guilty of misrepresenting. It's the age. Yoga, there may be some influences that are hundreds or thousands of years old, but yoga itself is not. Just as none of the styles of martial arts that we practice today are thousands of years old. They're maybe 100 years old, maybe 150. But that doesn't make things better. Martial arts is like the only thing where we brag about something being old and unchanged. Check out this way of fighting that was invented before guns. And everyone had knives. And people were different heights. We haven't changed it. It's exactly the same. That makes it better than all the others that aren't. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It really is. All right. Yoga is about clearing away whatever is in us that prevents our living in the most full and whole way. With yoga, we become aware of how and where we are restricted in body, mind, and heart, and how gradually to open and release those blockages. As these blockages are cleared, our energy is freed. We start to feel more harmonious, more at one with ourselves. Our lives begin to flow, or we begin to flow more in our lives. Cybele Tomlinson. I would say that is an outcome for people who do yoga. Even more so than martial arts. In my experience, people who practice yoga look at it as a physical discipline and nothing more. Now, obviously, this isn't based on a study. I have not experienced, I haven't talked to a lot of yoga practitioners in other parts of the world or even other parts of the US, but the people that I know that do yoga in New England do yoga because it's basically stretching class. That's why most people I know do yoga. There's nothing wrong with that. Paul says, it's so true about being the only thing that hasn't changed in hundreds of years and people brag about it. Yeah. My response when people say that is, okay, show me another thing. Show me anything else. Let's pretend that is better. Show me another thing from back then, from 100 years ago, that's better than today. Now, you could make arguments about agricultural practices, but food itself, 100-year-old food, you're not going to want to eat that. I don't know too many people reading books from 100 years ago, right? I do like yoga. I think yoga has a place. And there's this interesting framework that's been kind of rolling around in my head that it doesn't make sense for us to work on this right now. It's not worth devoted resources to. But I'm imagining a new presentation of martial arts class that is probably 45 minutes of core martial arts as we would teach it now, broken up, but maybe a little bit more organized, because a lot of martial arts instructors just wing it. And that's not bad, but it means that certain aspects of development are addressed infrequently. But coupled with that training, this would probably be a 90-minute class, there would be a much more structured strength component, flexibility component, meditative component, etc. Yoga works. Yoga's pretty cool. Is it the best way to get flexible? No. But as a physical practice, there's value there beyond that. Oh, coffee is good. I'm still working on that coffee from Costa Rica. My client gave me. It's so good. Yoga is the fountain of youth. You're only as young as your spine is flexible. Bob Harper. Yoga is valuable. I agree with the statement on your spine. If your spine is inflexible, you're probably going to have a miserable time. Yoga is not the fountain of youth. Here's the problem with yoga. Here's my problem with yoga. Many of the positions build flexibility without any strength through those ranges of motion and actually are prone to create some imbalances structurally. If I ask you what is the body type of a yoga practitioner, someone who probably teaches yoga, you're probably imagining something. And while anybody can do yoga, and while I've known people of all body shapes, most people who do a lot of yoga are very thin, very flexible, and have very little muscle tone. Another way of saying muscle tone, they don't have a lot of muscle. They are what some people refer to as skinny fat. They're thin, but their body fat percentage is surprisingly high. That's not a good body type to go into older age with. It's just not. Plenty of science to back that up. Just as I don't encourage people to only do martial arts training, do other stuff. Go for a hike. Go do yoga, right? Mix it up. I don't think people should only do yoga. I know people who that is the entirety of their physical movement practice. They'll walk and they'll do yoga. Honestly, the walking is probably better for them than the yoga in that context. Is there a fountain of youth? Is there a physical fountain of youth? It's probably having a purpose. It's probably having a why. And I say that only because when we see examples of people who retire and don't have something else to do, their average lifespan after that isn't very long. It suggests to me that having a purpose, having a why is pretty important. If we're talking physically, it's probably sleeping, drinking enough water, and walking. Those are probably the things. I was sitting on the top of the mountain with my friends, and as always, I got attention for being barefoot. People, did you just take your shoes off, or did you walk up here like that? I walked up here like that. Oh my gosh, I could. There's one girl with her family. She's probably early teens, and said, I don't even think I could walk down the beach barefoot. And I was like, I did not react visibly because that was really depressing to me. And I said what I always say: you start small. You don't just try to hike a mountain barefoot when you've never gone without shoes. There was another girl there. She was probably college age, and she was really interested, asking me a ton of questions. Apparently, she'd been thinking about this, and so I gave her some of my overview, the basic stuff about how you can correlate advancements in shoe technology with joint issues and how wearing most shoes changes the way we walk. And she was interested. She was pretty interested. So, fingers crossed that I convinced somebody else to go barefoot. You cannot do yoga. Yoga is your natural state. What you can do are yoga exercises, which may reveal to you where you are resisting your natural state. This initially strikes me as incredibly pretentious, but let me put that aside for a moment. I really, really agree with the last clause in this sentence, which may reveal to you where you are resisting your natural state. Our body has things that it wants to do, that it wants to be able to do, that it was designed to do, that we all should be able to do. whether it's walking or squatting down or picking things up off the floor or reaching overhead or rotating or whatever. We should be able to do all of these. We should be able to do all of these things pretty much up until we die. But modern life changes those things because we don't use those movement patterns. I think they're critical. Martial arts, yoga, most sports help keep those things at bay because doing all those things is generally involved. Right? We reach overhead. We rotate. We squat. Not always both feet at once, but picking your knee up is half of a squat. Good morning, Francis, to step into a yoga class and to see what positions are really challenging for you would be a good litmus test, good education. And we can stack this as another use for forms, because in forms, we can run through these movement patterns that we're not going to do in self-defense or free-form sparring. I'm not going to do big, bold, dramatic moves in a slow fashion. Just because you can't use it directly one-to-one on the street doesn't mean it doesn't have value. You know what's a bad self-defense protocol? Not being able to move when you're old. Silly people. One more. Oh, this is fun. A photographer gets people to pose for him. A yoga instructor gets people to pose for themselves. Terry Gillimetz. I like that. Even if you don't want to go to a yoga class, even if you don't want to do yoga, and the irony here is that maybe this is part of why Frank chose us, but the video that I uploaded, was it Thursday, the Patreon video, was about taking your forms and adapting them from the perspective of flexibility. How you could here's a way that you can take any form, and I demonstrate this, and incorporate some more movement from the perspective of flexibility and range of motion. It is absolutely critical. Here's a great example, squatting. We've talked about this on the show. We will continue to talk about this. It comes up constantly. For me, the most primal, in other words, fundamental, foundational movement pattern that we have as human beings is walking. The second most primal movement pattern is squatting. If you cannot squat, and I mean squat like the way a baby squat, just kind of like drop their butt to the ground, and look at what's on the ground, pick things up, it is representative of something going wrong in your body. Our bodies have not evolved to not need that, but yours has. You can correct it. You should correct it. You should not accept it. Why does it happen? Because we spend all our time sitting in chairs without being able to squat lower and having to, use our muscles for that. So here's a challenge for you. Here's a thought. Whether you've seen the video I put up last week or not, try to take a form. Start with the most basic form you know. And see if you can adjust it so you can incorporate big range of motion. Make everything big. Make your stances big. Make your steps big. Make your, if you cross your arms, make it bigger than normal. Take it slow. See how that feels. When I was doing that last week in prep for the video, it felt really good. It was an awesome warm-up. And it also helped me understand what was going on in the form a little bit better. There's probably more in your form than you realize. So. All right. Let's see if we got an episode yet. I thank you for watching. It's not there yet. It'll be up soon. thank you for watching. I thank you for your support. Check out that episode when it comes up. Check out other episodes. Check out all the episodes. And if you want to support us, you can grab a mug. Not this one, because this one was retired because I printed it wrong. It's supposed to be on the side. But you can grab a First Cup mug at whistlekick.com with the code FirstCup15. You can check out all the things we do at whistlekick.com. We got a Patreon. Cool stuff on the Patreon. Leave me stuff to talk about. And I will see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and give me a thumbs up. Peace. Thanks, Francis. Thank you.